The last concept is, if you've ever played Mass Effect 2, if you played Mass Effect 1, that does not count because the combat system is completely different. And I haven't played Mass Effect 3 yet, mainly because I haven't finished Mass Effect 2. I need to get back to that. But I just refuse to play Mass Effect 3 until I finish Mass Effect 2 because I want to beat Mass Effect 2. Again, I've heard some things that kind of have spoiled Mass Effect 3 for me a little bit, but I still want to play it. If nothing else, I want to play it for the story. But if you've ever played Mass Effect 2, like I said, I don't know how it works in Mass Effect 3, but the combat system, basically, it works like this. It's kind of like Guild Wars in a sense, but not really. Instead of having like a power bar, you have these different abilities, and after you use an ability, certain abilities have different cooldown times. One may have a 3-second cooldown, one may have a 10-second cooldown, and this cooldown applies to all of your skills. So if you use an ability that has a long cooldown, you can't use any skills for quite a while, so you have to think about when you use these. Just like any good RPG, really. But this concept is one not seen very often, so this is one reason I really like Mass Effect 2. I generally end up spamming Fireball, though, because I play as, I think it's called Infiltrator, and my class has the ability to use fireballs, which, like I said, I tend to spam a lot because I like conserving ammo, because ammo is sometimes hard to find in that game. Yes, if you did play Mass Effect 1 and none of the future games, they did put an ammo system in the game, which I didn't really like at first, but kind of has its ups and downs. In Mass Effect 1, I did like the ability to not run out of ammo, and I like the concept they put in behind it of, you know, having an ammo block. And since the ammo block is so big and so much power is put behind each of these tiny projectiles, this thing could last for hours and hours of just constant firing, and, you know, it wouldn't get depleted. And I kind of like that concept. There are a lot of concepts actually about Mass Effect that I really liked. So if you have played that game, you know how the combat system works. Certain enemies, and it kind of works differently for you, but I'm not gonna talk about how your defense mechanisms work. An enemy would have a health bar. Actually, some of them had armor bar and no health bar. This was like if you were fighting a mech. They wouldn't have a health bar, they would just have an armor bar, and that would be their health. Some enemies would have both armor and health. So they'd have a health bar, they might have an armor bar, they might have a shield bar, and then some enemies might have a biotic barrier bar. Some bosses would have all of these combined. So basically, depending on the kind of boss you were fighting, you would have to take down their biotic barrier, then you'd have to get through their shield, then you'd have to start hacking away at their armor. Now, you're getting shot at during all of this. Keep that in mind. This game can be... some of the combat can get really crazy hard and just all around insane. It's like there's so much going on. You're getting shot at by the reinforcements that respawn. Well, actually, I don't believe there are any cases in which they respawn infinitely. Or actually, no, there are, but there's usually an explanation behind it. Like in the original Mass Effect, there was a boss, and she was like a plant thing, and like this giant plant would keep reproducing her every time you killed her. And you'd have to, you know, take out these spores or whatever, and eventually you'd defeat her. But anyway, you'd have to deal with a boss's reinforcements sometimes, and basically you'd have to hack away their armor, but you had to get as much damage as you could before they regenerated their shield or before they regenerated their biotic barrier or whatever it was. So there was very little luck involved in the game. It was much more about your tactics, because I noticed in a lot of cases, if I used a certain tactic, I would just get slaughtered, and then, I would use a different tactic, and then I'd just win easily. I'd be like, wow, I should have been doing this from the beginning. I lost 10 times because I thought that was a good strategy, but now, I finally made up my mind I want to do this, and it actually paid off. And that's a thing I really liked about the combat system. Now, what this has to do in relation to my concept for a game, this is another idea that I had for... This might work with my concept that I've been talking about, or it may just work with a different concept altogether. Keep in mind, these concepts are just very general. They're not necessarily designed to be put together. They're just various concepts for RPGs that haven't been done for very often, or at least most of them really haven't been visited before. Basically, my idea would be to attempt to mostly remove luck from the game. Now, I've already talked about critical hits. Now, that's a little bit of luck. So, like I said, this doesn't necessarily go with all the other things that I was talking about. But these ideas could be, redone a little bit. But like I said, since I really like Mass Effect 2's combat system, my ideas for these various concepts that could be used in certain situations where you would have an assassin, and like, for example, if you may have a tank that has a separate health bar and an armor bar, and I've actually thought of possible different bars that represent your ability to evade attacks or block attacks or resist magic, for example. So they might have a magic resistance bar, an evasion bar, and so on and so forth. So like an assassin would have an evasion bar, and of course if you've got this big tank swinging this huge axe, it would not deplete an assassin's evasion bar very much, because it's a big, heavy, slow weapon. An assassin is just going to dodge the crap out of that thing. That unlocks different concepts for combat, and so yeah, an evasion bar that would go down faster when it got, if you're being attacked either from the side or from the back. This would actually, if you're getting attacked from the back, unless you have certain abilities, your evasion bar would probably not do anything. In fact, it would probably get depleted and you would get hit, because you don't see attacks coming from behind necessarily. Now, like I said, there may be some kind of passive ability, kind of like in Dragon Age Origins, where I think warriors have this ability that makes them immune to backstabs, which is really annoying. I actually found that really annoying because I play a rogue. Again, that's another game I need to get back to. The rogues would just often be very dependent on backstabs, and a lot of warriors would have this immunity to that, and it would just be really annoying. But anyway, I'm not necessarily saying to include that, I was just kind of including another thought. But anyway, so the evasion bar would basically get depleted faster with faster attacks, and be depleted also for getting hit from behind. Generally, you wouldn't be able to get hit until your evasion bar was down, but like I said, if you're getting hit from behind, then you're not going to be able to evade attacks, at least not very effectively, coming from behind. So you get hit and your bar would deplete. But like I said, kind of like in Mass Effect 2, you can't damage their health until their shields are down. So you'd have to get through their evasion bar before you could get to their health. Now, there'd be some abilities that would allow you to recharge evasion, at least to a certain extent. But again, with the concept of side grades, you'd sacrifice dealing damage or something like that. So if, like I said, since this is a very team-based concept, maybe if you're getting attacked, you focus on recharging your evasion bar so that your allies are just hitting the tank or whatever you're getting attacked by. Basically, now, I'm not sure actually if a tank would work in this concept, but this would probably be a game in which it probably wouldn't support PvP, since tanks would be so reliant on drawing aggro. I've just thought the idea of PvP in a traditional tank, attracting aggro is kind of dumb, because real players don't get affected by that. Therefore, most of the time they're like, go for the healer, which is generally the strategy in most MMOs, at least I think it is. Now, I've never, like I said, I think I've already said I'm not really into MMOs, so I haven't ever done a lot of PvP in any MMO, so actually I'm not sure. But most games I've heard, go for the healer, and that's kind of retarded to me, because if you're doing like a dungeon siege or whatever where you're fighting bots, the tank's role is to attract attention and keep enemies from hitting anybody else. And like, also, it's kind of useless in a PvP, isn't it? Because you're not getting attacked by players unless they see a reason to attack you. They're probably going for your medic, therefore your aggro abilities are just rendered completely useless. Now, I'm sure there are other abilities that a tank can use to, instead of attracting aggro, he's actually dealing more damage, and that probably balances it out. But then that kind of ruins the whole point of a tank, generally, if you're in Dungeon Siege or something like that. So yeah, tanks would also have block bars and armor bars, and as an assassin, you'd be able to easily get in behind by using you know, flips and different maneuvers and even cloaking, and you'd be able to pierce their armor with different attacks, especially if you're using daggers. And there are a lot of possibilities where different characters could bypass different bars. Like, for example, mages could bypass an armor bar and a block bar and an evasion bar. But of course they'd have a magic resistance bar to get through first, if a certain class has a magic resistance bar. But, you know, this would create a lot of different scenarios in which healers may be required to heal somebody that still has full armor, full block, etc. So that you wouldn't necessarily be able to depend on your block bar to protect you. Because, you know, your block bar may be full and you're not taking any melee hits. You're probably not actually getting attacked by melee, you're probably getting attacked by magic. Therefore, you need to take other measures to protect yourself. So like I said, there are a lot of possibilities with this design. Of course, there are some other things that I have ideas for. To wrap up, you know, there's evasion bars and things like that. And certain bars can be bypassed, certain bars can't be bypassed, and it would be very strategic. It's like, oh, I need to watch my health, for example, because my health may be getting dropped even though I have full armor and full evasion or whatever, because I may be being stabbed in the back, for example. So, you know, somebody take out that assassin because I'm getting stabbed and my armor is useless. You know, so it creates a lot of tactical opportunities for a game. And I think there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. What was it? Actually, I think that's about it. But like I said, that's a lot of different concepts for RPGs that I've been having recently. I really did not mean for this to be such a long video. Or a long recording. So, anybody who's watching this video, let me know what you think about it. Like I said, since I am a programmer and I have done programming before, I may actually get to work on this concept sometime, probably not anytime soon. But if anybody watching this is like a game designer themselves, feel free to contact me if you're interested in my ideas and maybe you want to get a game development project started. I could get into that. I think I just need a little bit of incentive to actually get started on programming seriously, because at this point I'm just kind of, you know, programming kind of whenever I feel like it, because, you know, I don't really have any official projects going on. It's just kind of what I'm doing here and there in my spare time when I'm not playing games or watching videos or whatever. So anyway, I think that's about it. So like I said, yeah, just let me know what you think, and you will see me in a Let's Play sometime.